Hi there, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Welcome to day 282 of our BU 365-day challenge. To do one thing every day that continuously improves us. Today we're going to talk about the learning paradox, or what I call the learning paradox. Basically says the more you learn, the more you realize how much you do not know, or how much you don't know. Now, Albert Einstein said something similar to this, as did a whole lot of famous people. Aristotle actually was probably one of the first ones that said it. He said basically, the more you know, the more you know you don't know. The more you know, the more you know you don't know. And I don't know if he said it exactly like that. Probably not. Probably in his version of the language, of his language. But the point is, over eons, lots and lots of time, people have discovered this, and it's really interesting when you discover it for yourself. I have always been somebody that loved learning and was curious and digging into things and wanted to know what things mean or how things worked or where they came from. Ever since I was a little girl, I was, taking apart machines and watches and clocks and things in the house because I wanted to know how they worked. I was curious about them. And I realized that once I took them apart, I usually couldn't get them back together again, which meant the more I knew and understood how things were put together and worked, the less I knew about how they really worked and how to put them together again. One of the things I find really fascinating is that we really don't know much about electricity. We know how it flows, we know how to start and stop it, but electricity is one of those mysterious things that we're not sure exactly why and how it works that way. Here's something that's a part of our everyday lives. All of our lights, all of our equipment, practically everything we have works on batteries or electricity or some power source, yet we don't really understand how electricity and lightning and things like that work. So the more we know, the less we really know, or the more we realize that we don't understand or don't know. The more scientific discoveries there are, the more we understand how vast the universe really is and how little we actually know as human beings. There's a whole lot of things we guess and hypothesize about and think we know, but we actually don't. Think about all of the hundreds or thousands of years that people thought the world was flat, only to discover that the world was not flat at all, and it's actually round, and we're all held on this little planet by gravity, and then so many things like that. So our action item today is to just think about, I was trying to think about when this really hit me as the more curious I am, the more I dig into things, the more I know. I realized, decades ago that I was never going to be able to study or learn about all of the things that I'm curious about. So nowadays I pick and choose what I spend my time on. When I first came on the internet when it first came out, I would pull all-nighters. I had 2 little kids at home, was working a full-time job, had a business on the side, yet I would stay up all night long exploring the internet and get no sleep because I was so fascinated by it. And I realized that it was just growing and growing exponentially even in the beginning, and that I could never explore all of the information that's available on the internet. We take for granted today that answers to questions and information is so readily available, we're actually overwhelmed by it. When I made the move from the offline to the online world, I didn't realize how easy it was, and I understand now when people call it shiny object syndrome, to get taken down different rabbit holes and trails when it comes to the online world. In the offline world, things are physical, and there's a high barrier to entry in a lot of ways of going down different paths and making it so you're more careful with things that you explore and learn about. Online, it's relatively low cost to learn about different things. I remember learning about when chatbots first came out, and I'd already fallen for a few shiny object things online as I was learning how to do things online, and I actually had to stop myself and say, no, I am not going to learn and become an expert or understand the details of chatbots, how to program them, etc. If I want a chatbot, which I do have one, I will have someone else do it for me, which I did, because it was a whole thing that could have taken me down a rabbit hole that I was curious about it, but I wasn't interested that I needed to know all about it and how to do it myself. And there's a lot of things like that in life, right? A lot of people hate cooking. I personally love cooking, but a lot of people don't like it at all and don't know how to cook because they don't want to know how. And so they don't spend any time or energy on cooking, yet other people become expert cooks and chefs and restaurateurs and everything else because they have a love for that thing. So we get to pick and choose what it is we want to know more about. Knowing, of course, that we're never going to know everything about anything. Why? Because things change all the time. So our action item today is just to share one thing that you want to know more about. And the first thing that popped into my mind today was storytelling, and I'm like, well, that's kind of small. And then I realized that the thing I really want to know more about and will continue on a lifelong journey to discover is, how do I always be a better version of myself? How do I become the best possible version of myself? So when I die, I know this is where I started out. These are all the mistakes I made, but this is what I learned and how I continue to improve until I die. Or I want to know how to make the world a better place. How can I personally and uniquely contribute to and make the world a better place? So I thought, okay, well, those are better things to wonder about than storytelling. Although I'm sure I will read and study and learn more about storytelling. All right, so that's our action item today. Love to know your experience with this particular paradox. Have you had an aha moment that said, hey, I'm never going to know everything I want to know, but I'm going to continue to learn throughout my life because I know the more I know, the less I actually know. So, love this paradox. I actually really like this paradox because it's taught me to be a lifelong learner, and I think that's an incredible mindset to have, or a desire to have. All right, have an awesome day. Any questions, ask. Otherwise, I'll be with you tomorrow.